Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Hardman. This is the Stoughton Writers Group. I'm the author of Hartman, a memoir, and also the longtime Stoughton resident. My guest today is another Stoughton resident, Bill Perry, the author of Serendipity's Adventure of a Minnesota Boy, which is available on Amazon and also at the Stoughton Senior Center. It still stays there. Those books disappear.
Somebody took it.
Welcome, Bill, and I'm really glad to have you here. And Bill also runs the Senior Writing Center group, and that's what we're really going to talk about today. Tell me a little bit about the group.
The group grew out of my experience in Maine. For 5 years in Maine, I was part of the Write On Writers group at People Plus, the Senior Center in Brunswick. And I joined the group because I wanted to have social contact. And I just thought, well, I'll go in. My only writing experience at that point had been professional writing up research and writing manuals and doing that sort of stuff. And I joined this group and first started writing about my personal experience. And I did this for, I guess, almost 5 years, and I still go. I was there last week at the group. And when I moved to Stoughton last November, I really missed that kind of contact, and I started writing to the senior centers in the area, Sharon, Stoughton, and Canton. And Stoughton said, we'd like you to start a writing group.
How is it done as what you thought it would do, and where is that right now when you started?
It's very different from what I expected. I decided to go in with basically no rules except a limit on how long you read for, and making it clear that there needed to be time for feedback, something that we didn't have in Maine at all. Everybody would read, there'd be some clapping, a few things like that, but not time for interaction afterwards.
I should kind of do full disclosure. I remember the group too.
Yeah.
I just think the group is a place for people to go express their feelings and communicate too. And they have life experiences, and I'm always amazed at the life experience to watch out, because I'm the youngest member of the group. One of the rare times I can say that in my life. Yeah. One of the youngest people in the group. But what I find is just I learn so much, and I walk away thinking, what was that about? Or that really surprised me, and that's a different take on it. And I think for me, it's been a lesson on how aging is, because these people in the group are very active, right, and they're alive. And I think sometimes we're all guilty of ageism. And I think that class destroys ageism totally. I think that's what happens with it.
What I really like about the group is people who have been writing privately and now are starting to make their writing more public, even in that small, pretty intimate group. People who have years and years of writing, and then they bring it in and they read it to the group, and they keep coming back. So many of them are afraid about this group, afraid that it would be intimidating, that there would be really powerful writers in the group, and that their ideas wouldn't be accepted as openly as they are.
But I think that you change the group to be like that, though. The group is open. Yeah. There's no criticism of anybody. There's suggestions instead of criticism, which I like. I'm used to being a freshman. I'm used to criticism. So for me, it was different. But I love it. I love the feedback from the people, and I use the group to run my full disclosure. Again, I use the group about books I'm writing. I read chapters of the books to them, and I say their reaction. That's always fine, because when you write a book, you're all alone, and you don't know what the reaction of the people is. So it's like I'm trying out the material before I play Broadway, everything like that too.
Before I read anything to the group, I run whatever I've written past 3 or 4 really critical readers, and I get the kind of feedback that I need. And when I go in the group, I just kind of want to see how the group responds to it. And what I listen for is something I didn't get in Brunswick, was what did this mean to you? What kinds of, they bring up these questions, Well, who is this related to in your life? Why did you choose this topic? I find it so fulfilling.
How did you? I've learned a lot about people. The group is very open like that. How do people join the group? Just so don't forget to ask that question.
They just sign up through the office at the COA, Stoughton Center, Council on Aging.
And we usually meet twice a month now.
twice a month. We have gotten to that schedule so that's the way it works.
I'm actually getting calling up on that subject a little bit. I know you're a college professor. You've done a million things in your life. We could talk about your whole life. I mean, I joke that my friend Bill is the most interesting man in Stoughton because you read his book, he'll take you all over the world, including Japan, which I found fascinating personally. What is the difference between teaching college students and teaching seniors?
Yeah, well, my experience has been primarily in university teaching, with several years of freshman composition at university level. Kevin McHale was one of my students.
Oh, really?
Once.
Yeah.
Or not. He was the biggest kid in the class, a straight A student.
Excellent.
So smart. And then once I started working overseas on a Fulbright and then a career in Japan, I worked with non-native speakers of English and writing. And for me, I knew it at the time, but it's only recently have I become aware of it, how writing is a form of meditation. Writing is something where you listen, where you don't speak, where you pay attention to everything around you, where you touch what's inside, and you have time to do it and work through it. And so in the different contexts where I've worked, freshman composition, I tried to do that sort of thing by choosing very focused topics where people had to meditate basically to get at what the topic was and write something good. To Japan, where they had no idea about this. And so I had to use things like songs, getting them to draw songs, getting a group response, and then individual writing after that.
Was it hard to get the people in Japan to come out? Like the senior group is very open.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that was the case in Japan.
No, really, really difficult. Yeah. But once you're into a topic, let's say you play a song, and then you ask the students, can you, as a group, draw a picture of that song? And the Japanese are really good at drawing. So they draw the picture, then all of a sudden what's there starts to come out. Mm-hmm. And it would come out in such a way that they could write things that they couldn't write before. I worked with the Japanese education I did some teaching in grade schools all the way up to through college, and getting students to write. They don't learn to write there. It's not part of the curriculum. Speaking, listening, reading, maybe a short composition, beginning, middle, end type stuff.
Why does that happen there?
For me, it's hard. I don't know. I would guess it's a historical tradition that writing is for the giants. Writing is for people who are really, really good at it. You know? And so for everyday people, the whole process is not part of their life.
What was like the first day to the last day you taught them? What was the biggest change?
Well, I was there for 15 years.
Yeah. So at the end, at the group that you had, though, the group.
Oh, the last group that I had.
Yeah, last group that you had. What was?
The last group that I had, they were fourth year seniors at Kobe University, one of the top universities in Japan. And I had all women. Mm-hmm. There were 10 women in the class. And I started by trying to get them to talk and then write about things. So they would express their ideas and then go through a reflection process and decide what to write. Well, 3 weeks into the course, they took over.
Oh, really? Wow.
They sat inside, they made a circle, and I was outside the circle as the only male in their group. And I listened to them talk about topics that were unbelievable for me, opening up to each other, sharing their ideas, and I would give them feedback on their speaking, on what they were saying to each other and any typical issues, and then they would choose a topic to write on from that group, where they had made the investment. I think the investment, and then they go through this, what I call meditation process.
Was the class in Japanese or English?
English.
Okay.
In English. They would speak Japanese sometimes. if they were talking about like things that are particular to females and they didn't really want me listening to it. But my Japanese was good enough that I could usually figure out what they were talking about.
It's kind of funny. That's happening with your senior group too.
Yes.
They don't, you go through the period where people get to know each other and they're kind of shy. And then maybe like the third or fourth time, it's open up. And
you can't stop them.
You can't stop them. Yeah, I thought too.
Exactly.
When you look at, over the course of all the times you teach, have you developed principles of what you want to teach about writing?
Yeah. I think the main principle is that it's not about teaching, it's about learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's about reflection in writing. And so working on what they traditionally do in Japan is the 3-part essay. I'm more interested in people starting wherever they want to start and letting a topic develop from what it is they started with. And that's pretty much what happened with this last course that I had at Kobe University. And the same as in the meditation process, you find a comfortable place to be. You focus on listening, and you focus on what's inside. And then in terms of writing, I often told students, just start writing whatever came.
As being in newspapers for 40 years and watching the decline of readership and writing, I'm very worried about people not reading and writing in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Do you share that concern? Or?
Yeah, but I'm since I'm sort of an IT guy, I think there are other channels. There are other channels that a friend of mine in Japan started a study where he had students doing writing, giving them a choice to write at home on a computer or to write while they were commuting on using their cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
And the most interesting insight that he's provided so far is that he found that the writing on the cell phones was more creative, more interesting, and of higher quality.
Why? Why would that be?
His contention is that the connection with the brain is closer to what's going on the cell phone than it is through looking at a computer and typing on a computer.
So he's thinking our brains have really been changed to go from sitting down and writing with a piece of paper or a typewriter.
Right. That's more to just connecting with your device.
How do you teach that, though, do you think?
I think it comes naturally. I think people do it. I think maybe in his case, I think he sets a topic and lets them find a topic, and they take the topic and they write on the topic. But I think in the future we're going to see that this is a much more natural way to approach writing. I don't know, hard to say.
That segues into AI in writing, though.
Yeah.
That's a fear of mine, and I'll tell you why. I had to sit down to write something really quick the other day, so I took your advice. And, there you go. I'll do it with the AI, and I did it, and it was brilliant. And I'm going, oh my God, it was very well done. I had to go back and edit some things to fix it, but I go, that took me 2 minutes, and I went back, cried a little bit, shut the door, turned the computer, went back to my pencil and paper. And I go, oh no. Are you concerned about that, taking over as a technology?
I am. Actually, yesterday I worked on the essay for our group for next week, and I decided to approach that prompt of time heals all wounds by looking at what AI has to say about it. And for me, when you talk about a wound, something that's touched you personally and deeply, and go to AI and ask them, what does this mean? So superficial. What was missing was a feeling. Mm-hmm. And in my writing group, the writing group I was in Brunswick, for like 3 weeks in a row, I brought in pieces that were written on AI and asked them if they could tell. And they did, eventually. Eventually they could tell. And what they said is what's missing is voice.
So that's what you think will keep people writing around
voice.
The voice of it too.
Voice.
But how do you incorporate the technology into your writing without, turning it all the way over to the machines, kind of?
Well, if you turn it over to the machines, it's a cop-out. And I think you're basically not going in what you're doing in meditation, you're not going deeper than the surface.
What else, before your professor hat back on again, how concerned would you be if students just using AI to write papers or essays and things like that, if you were teaching again?
Well, ultimately it's their problem. Ultimately it's their problem. And it's so easy to see. I find it really easy to see.
How do you find it easy to see? What stint?
Well, of course, they have the same kind of programs that you have for plagiarism that detect that. Mm-hmm. But it's really, like if you take a topic and just look it up in ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot, you're going to find out that this is where that information came from. It's really easy, but it's not worth it to me. Mm-hmm. The problem, if you suspect it, maybe check a little bit and then talk to the student and say, really, is this what you want? Do you think this is what writing's about?
I'm just concerned that would take over. There's still limited jobs too. We see newspaper companies going to AI.
Yeah, but there are kinds of writing where you don't have to have that kind of a commitment, where you don't need to address the deeper level of the voice, the feeling. There are kinds of writing.
Like business proposals or things like that.
Research was that way.
Yeah.
Always that way.
Was it tough as a writer to write like regular stories and go to write business proposals and things like that?
Yeah, for me the switch was 25 years of writing up research, doing research, writing it up, and then to try to start writing about my own experience. I couldn't do it. I struggled. I struggled for 2 years and had a lot of help from my friends who would read my stuff and say, wait a minute, there's nothing in here. You said there's a tree in the corner. You didn't say what kind of a tree, how you felt about the tree, what was,
I went through the same thing being an author as opposed to being a journalist. Because a journalism, you get to 250 words or 500 words, if it's longer, you stop.
Yeah.
Because somebody will cut it. If somebody will cut it. I mean, when I started in newspapers, if you had 8 paragraphs, you went to the 9th paragraph, no matter what was in the 9th paragraph, it disappeared. So you had to learn how to do that. So as an author, you said you had to break through that wall.
Yes.
And describe the tree.
Yeah.
The tree's brown.
And how I felt about
it. About the tree. Yeah. So you said mentally, how'd you get over that? What was it, just talking to people or?
It was writing every week, bringing in an experience from every week. And then in the group in Brunswick, even though we didn't give feedback directly, members would write to me afterwards. I like this. This was good. Maybe you could do something about this. And then when I wrote this book, I put a lot of the stories that I had written in Brunswick in this book and had so many people read it. And that's where I got the kind of feedback that I needed to go from there's a tree in the corner to what kind of a tree, how did I feel about the tree? What did the tree do?
But in your book, you talk about all the transitions you went through in life.
Right.
Was that another transition, being able to write like that now?
Only at the very end, I got to that idea.
Did you wish you learned it earlier?
But, serendipitous. You can't wish things like that. Just, what happens, happens, I'm just lucky it happened.
But your whole life has been like that, though.
It has.
I know, go in the...
It still is.
Why is that? Why do you think that?
I think it came out in something that I read in the writing group a couple of weeks ago, rebelling against my father.
Yeah.
I think that's where it came from. And I decided, well, I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. Yeah.
But you've lived all over the world. You've been an auto mechanic, which I find fascinating, and things you've done.
Yeah.
Was it with the writing group too? Is it just when opportunity comes, you just knock over the door? You don't bang on it lightly. You just step through it. Is that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Do you try to convey that to people when they teach them writing too, that they have to knock the door down?
Yes. Where I learned the importance of that was when I was teaching in Hungary. Now, Hungarians have very special minds.
Mm-hmm.
And my second wife taught Japanese there. And she had planned for the whole semester. They finished it in 2 weeks.
Dear God.
And so what I learned there, and then talking about doors, is I asked the students to design a door, draw a picture and write about it. And the most amazing door was the one where you turn the knob and the wall opened.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What did living in the different countries, how did that change your life, do you think?
I think that I learned to appreciate culture, different cultures, and I learned to behave in a way that was appropriate in that culture. But I would say I was outside the U.S. for 35 years. Probably the last 15 years, I wanted to be an American. So when I would speak German, which is probably the easiest language for me, I made sure that I sounded like an American, and I would speak German.
What's it been like to be back after 35?
Oh, it's really nice. I mean, it's been really good. I was a U.S. government employee for 15 years. I have the benefit of their health insurance, of being a veteran, of being in my culture, even though they don't speak my language here in Massachusetts. They don't speak Minnesota.
It's like living in another foreign country. Yeah.
It is. The culture's different. Yeah.
When we talk about seniors, being a senior is, when I'm a new senior, so I'm learning it, is being active seems to be the key. Do you agree with that? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, being active shifted from doing sports, being out every day, and to swimming, biking, but doing support for seniors, doing IT support, writing, getting people to share their writing, shifting what's more appropriate for my body as I get older.
I'm developing a theory about this for my next book.
Yeah.
And that when you're volunteering is the best thing. When you're volunteering, helping people. My doctor told me that. He said he's 80-something. He was 80-something years old. And I asked him about it because I'm writing a book about men aging coming out. And I'm curious about that. And he said, he goes, if you're doing stuff, that's good because it keeps your mind going. He goes, don't let your mind go. And I feel with the senior group, you do that.
Yeah, increases serotonin, I think. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, if you look at the Enneagram, I'm a helper. There's no question about it. I've been that way all my life, as a helper. But there is so much that I can sit through. Last week, I had 13 clients up in Brunswick. I can manage each different client and enjoy each one, you know.
Yeah, I found that when I was really sick and I had the heart problems and I couldn't do anything, and I hated sitting around. That was what drove me crazy. Was I was healing, but I really hated like sitting on my couch watching TV all day, waiting. I was always wanting to know what people were up to. What are you doing in your business? And I was curious. So that part never goes away. And they say with the senior group or the writing group is the writing is a way to keep that going.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the senior group, listening to people reading their pieces, I'm always thinking about my publishing company, that I can help them get their work published.
Yeah.
And I something about that, it's a drive that I have. If somebody has a variety of different things that they've written, even if they're handwritten, there are ways to use optical character recognition or just use the handwritten pieces to make something that is sustainable, that will last, and that will be a legacy for them.
Yeah, I think sometimes I look at the story and I say, okay, that's a great story. And then one person in class asks, you should write that story. And I remember saying no, because that's that person's story. And I tell you that's what I think if we're older, it's good to write because we're dealing with a lot of issues too. Yeah. Like the subject you talk about there's a lot of feeling in that group, and you talk about things you don't want to talk about, or maybe you think not maybe don't want to talk about, but maybe things you haven't thought about in a long time.
Right. But just think of how great that is for your children, your grandchildren, for the people who are your friends, for the people who are still here when you're gone.
Right. That's what I think of we have a person in class writes poetry, and it's beautiful. And that's a great gift that she's giving to her great-grandchildren.
Yeah.
In some form, this will exist. Some form paper will exist. Some form things will exist that you can do.
I hope so, but it's so easy. Again, I'm coming at it from a technical perspective. It's so easy to make it into a form that's going to last.
Yeah.
You know?
But the memories they have, the memories of the group has, is the thing. That's the key. They have stories. You have to live to write, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they're writing about their things. And I think it's good for the mind. I think it's good for the soul. And I think it's good when we go and we hear the people speak and they tell their stories and we go home and think about it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's something that's on. We're exercising our brains in the class, but they're also asking, you know, days later when somebody wrote something and it clicks. You know,
I have that all the time.
Yeah.
I'm less concerned about where I am physically in terms of my health than I am about the mental activity, and the mental activity has just skyrocketed since I retired.
You know, when I had my triple bypass, I lost my hand. I lost feelings in my hand, in my left hand, and I couldn't type. And it was driving me crazy on the cell phone. I couldn't get the numbers right. I couldn't type. And that panicked me more than the heart, losing my heart, because I felt I was going to lose something I didn't do. And then people saying, well, you can use technology, you know, technology to do it. You can still speak. But I remember the mind was the last thing. I think the mind was the one you didn't want to lose.
Exactly.
It's so funny when you think of all the stuff, the stuff I can't do physically now, the mind's the one that I don't want to lose.
Right.
And I think at the age that's exercise in the brain, you feel better. Yeah, I feel better. It makes you like want to do stuff like that too. So again, if anybody wants to join the group, just reach out to the Stoughton COA.
Yeah.
And it's about maybe about an hour, a couple times a week. Sometimes a month. It's no heavy lifting really, but you know, but
you got to do the writing.
You got to do the writing, but no, you know, writing is important and you got to contribute. But I think people, once they go to the group, they get really, really interested in it and all that too. I'm glad I joined. I'm glad I saw it in the bulletin and said, this is kind of fun. And I wanted to go because I wanted to help other people write too. And that was one of my things. So I think we all accomplished that. And it's also good to meet your neighbors too.
Right.
You know, I met people I didn't know and people I do know better now. And it's good I think that's important too, to have that contact, like you said, to go out and do that too.
Right.
Yeah. I recommend you read Bill's book. It's Serendipity Adventures of a Minnesota Boy. Maybe somebody will return it to the senior center. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been a great show with my friend Bill, and appreciate it. And Bill, good luck with the writing group and everything you do. Bill also repairs computers too. So if you have a broken computer, go to the senior center and he'll take care of it for you. He's a whiz at that. It's been a pleasure sitting down with my friend. We could have done this at Starbucks, but it's nicer to do it here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you turning in to the Stoughton Writers Group, and we'll see you next time. I'm Mike Hardman, and have a good day.